When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, many people today assume Japanese leaders must have been reckless, blinded by pride, or hopelessly outmatched. But inside Tokyo's war rooms, the Japanese high command didn't see the United States as an unbeatable giant. They believed, confidently, logically, and fatally, that they could defeat America, not by crushing the U.S. entirely, but by breaking its will to fight. To Japanese strategists, the Pacific War wasn't about destroying America's population or invading its mainland. It was about striking so fast, so hard, and so far across the Pacific that the United States government would decide the war was too expensive, too long, and too bloody to continue. Japan believed victory wasn't about strength. It was about psychology. Japan's confidence came first from its recent history of rapid victory. In the decades before World War II, Japan had defeated China, shocked Europe by destroying the Russian fleet in 1905, and conquered huge portions of Asia with stunning speed. Their military believed they were unstoppable warriors, backed by centuries of martial tradition. Many Japanese officers genuinely believed the American soldier, soft, spoiled, and dependent on machines, as propaganda called him, would never match the discipline or ferocity of the Japanese fighting spirit. But the biggest reason Japan believed it could win was the U.S. itself. At the time, America looked divided, isolationist, and unwilling to enter another foreign war after World War I. Japan believed the U.S. had no stomach for a long conflict. Admiral Yamamoto himself warned Tokyo, "You can run wild for 6 months, but after that I have no confidence." But even he believed that if Japan struck quickly enough, capturing the Philippines, Guam, Hong Kong, Malaya, Indonesia, Wake Island, and threatening Hawaii, the United States government might negotiate a peace settlement. Japan never intended a long war. They intended a shock war. Japan also relied heavily on mathematics, cold strategic calculations. They believed that by destroying the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, they could buy enough time to fortify a massive defensive perimeter across the Pacific. This island wall would force the U.S. to bleed for every mile. The Japanese High Command assumed America would look at the distance, the cost, the loss of ships and men, and decide it's not worth it. They were certain the United States would protect its own interests, but would never cross an ocean to reverse Japan's empire. And for the first few months of the war, Japan looked right. Their victories were breathtaking. The Philippines collapsed, Singapore fell in the worst British defeat in history, and the rising sun spread across Southeast Asia at lightning speed. Japanese newspapers declared the United States a paper tiger, too soft and too slow to recover. But everything Japan believed turned out to be wrong. They misunderstood the one thing that mattered most: the American will. Japan saw America's comfort and freedom as weakness, but it was strength. Japan saw America's divided politics as fragility. But once attacked, the U.S. united with a force unlike anything Japan predicted. Japan saw American industry as slow and inefficient, but in truth, it was a sleeping giant, capable of producing more ships, planes, tanks, and ammunition than the entire Axis combined. Japan believed American soldiers were soft, but on islands like Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Palaliu, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa, they found Americans who would fight with the same ferocity and with unlimited supplies behind them. By the end of 1942, Japan realized the terrible truth. They had awakened a nation that could not be intimidated, could not be exhausted, and would never negotiate from weakness. Japan thought they could defeat America by breaking its spirit. Instead, America fought harder, produced more, and pushed farther than Japan ever imagined possible. And that is why Japan lost the war. Not because they were foolish, but because they misunderstood the one thing their strategy depended on: the American will to fight back.